Ladies and gentlemen, Lindsey Graham is dead and Mitch McConnell is alive, which is not how I was expecting on starting this week of shows, but some pretty wild news over the weekend, including that. We'll be getting a lot into the passing of Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, and then on the opposite end of that discussion, you have the proof of life photo from Mitch McConnell, where he looks vibrant, healthy, definitely real, and alive. And I think all those rumors have been put to hospital bed. So we will get into that. Big caveat at the top of today's show. This show does not endorse, support, or condone the mockery of even bad people's passing or the potential soon passing of other people. If you get lighthearted vibes from this camera, it is something about the lens or the microphones. It is not our fault. But more seriously, this is a grim topic. Somebody passes away. Some of the internet all of a sudden is discovering that this person had the best legacy ever. The other side of the internet is saying, haha lols. And me choosing to speak about such grim topics, I'm going to figure out exactly where the appropriate space is there to discuss it. But again, this is just how we cope. I might play a video in today's show, making a joke about sisters being wives in certain parts of the country. That is not to make light of passing, but to let us cope with a very dark news cycle. And if Trump can attack his friend for not being pro-insurrection enough after his passing, I think we can have a little bit of critical words for the man you're seeing on screen there, even if on a human level, a relational level, I sympathize with his family members and friends in his life. So before getting into the first segment on that topic and the information we're getting about how Lindsey Graham suddenly passed away, of course, as I explained before, it won't just be that today. We have Mitch McConnell, Kash Patel in the news, and other stuff. My name is, of course, Luke Beasley, joined by producer Kayla Cole and Jaden. Full house for this topic. If you have something to say that you're going to make me read, make it something I would want to read. If you're sending a super chat, okay? Guys, hey. Guys, hey. A lot of you are going to be sending super chats today. We see that already our viewing audience is a little bit high today. That means more people will have the urge to send a super chat. Remember, if you send a super chat, I have an obligation to read it. So make it something I would want to read, not something I would feel uncomfortable reading. Okay? That's another little rule up at the top of the show. So with that being said, let's get into this. As I previewed in the intro, South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. We'll get into Trump reacting to this news on Fox and Friends and even attacking Lindsey Graham for not being pro-insurrection enough during his in memoriam interview. But before we get to that, here's some details about what happened and a pretty bombshell anecdote about right before he died, what he said in reference to possibly dying. Here's the headline. Lindsey Graham brushed off urgent medical advice with morbid joke hours before his death, according to Axios. He was saying he felt unwell. He got off the phone with Trump, and then before his sudden death, he joked that he can't die now, citing his ambition to normalize Saudi-Israeli relations and that he needed to put strong sanctions on Russia. He had just got back from a trip to Ukraine, and he was not feeling well, and he literally said, well, I can't die now. I need to do this or that, and then shortly after did indeed die, which is a pretty rare sequence of events. Maybe you just have an intuition when something's coming, but it was reportedly a tear in his aorta, so some sort of cardiac event that led to him suddenly dying. Now, we will get into later in today's show some conspiracies about, did Russia do it? Did Ukraine do it? Was he actually taken out by a Russian drone in a Ukrainian drone factory? His body was reportedly found, and medical professionals have, I guess, revealed to the press that his body was found in Washington, D.C. So some of those aren't accurate, but a lot of confusion. I remember I woke up and I saw this news and I was just, my brain kept thinking it was about Mitch McConnell. Like, really, my brain couldn't switch the two names in my head because I was certain if a senator had died, it was going to be Mitch McConnell. But no, it was Lindsey Graham. A person who spoke with Graham shortly after his call with Trump said the senator complained that he was feeling unwell. When the person urged him to seek medical attention immediately, Graham said he would do so Sunday morning after his scheduled appearance on NBC's Meet the Press. Graham joked, "I can't die now. I still need to do the Russia sanctions, get Iran sorted out, and do Israeli-Saudi normalization." He passed away several hours later. Now, this brings us to his friend, the person who Lindsey Graham really sacrificed all of his principles for, sacrificed his legacy for, that being the president, Donald Trump, who even upon death couldn't help himself but to say, "Lindsey should have stood by me more powerfully after January 6th.
Now, he had one bad moment, and that was, in the January 6th thing when he stood up. All right, now I've had it. That's it. I can't do it anymore. And then he called me like about 40 minutes later, and he said, "Did I really say that? I can't believe it." And he took it back, so I give him a 99 instead of a 100. Most people a lot of people were at 100, but he did have that one little moment, and it was sort of funny when he goes, "Did you see it, by the way? I've had it. Now I've had it." He was just, it was too much for him. He said, "This is it. I've had it." I had nothing to do with that, by the way, just so you understand. And people got terribly destroyed because of that, where they did absolutely nothing wrong. I was very proud to give everybody a pardon. But Lindsey goes up and he goes, "Now I've had it. That's it."
Guys, Lindsey Graham just died. Trump, in a lot of this interview, is doing, in Trump fashion, the best he can, sort of a eulogy, which is mostly, "Lindsey Graham, his dying wish was to pass this bill that I want to get passed." Or, "Lindsey Graham, what he would want you to know right now is that we got to keep going after Iran." That is probably true, but just a strange way to use this interview. But then most sickeningly, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm a little disoriented this morning, but is him saying, "Yeah, Lindsey Graham was great, but he said very briefly, enough is enough after I tried to coup the government." But the cool thing is, according to Trump's telling, think about this. This is how he's honoring somebody's legacy. This might tell you a lot about Lindsey Graham's legacy. The way he's honoring it is to say, "But he called me right after and said, actually, I'm still cool with you, guy that I just denounced for trying to do a coup against the government. Guy who nearly destroyed our democracy because he could not accept an election result. Yeah, I had to publicly denounce you, but, I'm sorry. I didn't even mean to say that." And that's what we're going to get into a lot in the second segment today, which is, of course, on a human level, with rare exceptions, almost whoever it is. My heart does go out to anyone who loved them or cared for them, and I'm not a tap dancing on the grave type of person, contrary to most of the reaction I've seen online in some parts of the internet. But I do think it's fine to be just accurate about the person's legacy. Even if they just passed away, you can be accurate about their legacy. And that's what we're going to explore in the second segment, is a lot of the story of Lindsey Graham, aside from notoriously being for just about every war that we've ever engaged in, however unnecessary. The other big part that I think has defined the story of the later years in his life was just giving up everything he believed in to service Trump, violating any principle, contradicting any of his past statements to stay relevant by staying close to Trump. And Trump kind of makes an accidental dig at that during this honorary interview, where he goes, the only thing that I have a problem with Lindsey over is that he didn't cheer me on after I tried to do that insurrection. But then he reveals through going, "But the good thing is Lindsey did call me and say he didn't mean it right after that one time that he stood up for a principle." The very characteristic of Lindsey that I think has tarnished and will tarnish his legacy so darn much. And you have different people, different Democrats coming out, Biden and Kamala Harris and others who have worked with him for a long time and saying, well, on a personal level, he was real nice, and we would always have good hangs. I don't have any personal experience with him, so I can't add that to my reflection. All I can analyze is his actions in the public eye, which were pretty darn destructive. And then you have this part of Trump's interview.
He was totally against me. I mean, he was fighting me. He sort of used me as the example because I was leading in the polls by a lot. And he said, I'll get you in South Carolina. I'm going to get you in South Carolina. That didn't work out too well. I joke about it. It was amazing, actually.
So also in the I'm honoring my friend Lindsey interview, Trump brags about beating him in 2016 when Lindsey ran for president against him. So that's a thing. That's a thing that happened. Now, I think the president of the United States using an interview like this to do what he did is far more shameful than whatever is being said by random X accounts. But you're going to hear from right-wing media the story that, see, the left is so heartless.
What the hell happened to JD?
I think that might have been an accident. Yeah, that was an accidental click. Apologies. JD's okay. Just to be clear, JD Vance is okay from all we know. But you're going to be hearing a lot about, kind of like after the Charlie Kirk assassination, the left is heartless, and look at these examples of random people online. Now, rarely do they cite an actual influential elected Democrat, because all of their reactions will be very heartfelt and sweet, and maybe even ignore the damaging part of someone's legacy when they die. But they will cite random X accounts, okay? One that they might cite is this post from Brian Krasenstein, who said, Lindsey Graham just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. Now imagine that you are a supporter of Lindsey's, or you're sort of centrist or something, and you read that and you react with, that is disgusting. Okay? Imagine that's your reaction. Well, then I'd encourage you to read the rest of the post, because Brian goes on to explain that that's just him quoting exactly what Donald Trump said about Robert Mueller. So let's just remind ourselves of that. I like to have a more compassion-coded reaction, even when people that I had no respect for passed away. But the President of the United States said this after Robert Mueller died. He said, Robert Mueller just died. Good, I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. So that's what Krasenstein was emphasizing. But you have all sorts of right-of-center folks reacting to Brian, saying that's so sickening. How dare you say something like that, not realizing that he's just quoting what Trump said about somebody else. And so that's not what I want our politics to be. I really don't. And also, I acknowledge that when the president sets the tone at the very top, people are going to follow his lead. Even his opponents are going to follow his lead in how much sympathy or compassion they have in a moment like this. Trump did send out a post saying that, because this is the next piece of it, who's going to succeed Lindsey Graham? Now there's a vacant Senate seat, the logistics come into play, and Trump has decided that he wants to urge the governor, Henry McMaster, to appoint Lindsey Graham's sister. The Post writes, I recommend to Governor Henry McMaster, Lindsey Graham's wonderful sister Darlene, to serve as interim senator from the great state of South Carolina. This would be a fabulous tribute to Lindsey, who loved her dearly. President Donald J. Trump. And so that's what he's encouraging. I just want to get ahead of this, if you'll take that down, because when Darlene comes up, some of you will say, wait, didn't you recently do a whole joke about Darlene? And I want to go ahead and play this to get ahead of it, so that you know that I'm marking this as this happened before, right? So this is a flashback. This happened before, so don't recirculate this thinking that it happened after.
I thank my sister Darlene for always standing up for her.
And I also want to thank my wife, Darlene. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to my sister Darlene, and now I want to welcome on stage my wife, Darlene. So I feel like first we can mark that as saying that was a month ago, maybe. So if people start clipping and saying, look what he's saying after making jokes about Darlene, wife and sister, that now that was from before. I didn't know this was going to happen when we made those references. Just look at timestamps, because sometimes people will go find things you said before and be like we've had titles before that describe Lindsey as visibly dying inside, and I feel like if you screenshot and removed the timing, it would seem inappropriate. That was before. And I think that there is a story about him, quote unquote, dying inside for some of the years that he sacrificed his principles, that he looked degraded. And I do think the stress that can come with knowing that you're not doing what is right can put a pressure on you that harms your health, and that could have contributed. I don't know. But the point is, he didn't look well for years, and never in a, like, he looks too old type of way. He just looked like something was going wrong internally. And I do think if you live your life in a way where you sacrifice what you know to be right, that can weigh on you if you have a conscience. So maybe he did have one, and it was being weighed on. But I also think, reflecting on that moment, and we didn't have time to grab others, is to say I didn't have any personal interactions with him, so I can't do like he was terrible on policy, but he was nice in person, like some of the Democratic politicians are able to do. But I can say, however terrible his legacy or his policy stances were, he was a character, and he did allow for moments like of laughter, maybe more at than with, but laughter nevertheless. I used to always look forward to when he would come up on Seth Meyers' show. Seth Meyers would have a really funny impression. And so maybe, part of it is we're going to have bad people in politics, but I would rather my bad people to be sort of cartoonish, so that then at least we can have a lighthearted interaction sometimes with jokes. Like Rick Scott. Rick Scott's not a good guy in my estimation. And he's also not that fun to talk about because he's so boring. At least Lindsey was kind of more fun to talk about. He's a little bit of a character, and he had his little bubble wand, and there were things that would kind of make it a little bit more fun. And maybe that's one thing I can say positively. Biden said he was really nice back when they used to work together. So that's maybe another reason I think we reflect on that moment. But again, there are kind of dishonest right-wing reactions, like Brylan Hollyhand saying, when Joe Biden got cancer, Republicans prayed. Really? When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Democrats celebrated. Find me one elected Democrat right now. And then said, we are not the same. Maybe. Why didn't you say anything about Lindsey Graham? That was weird. But anyways, Harry Sisson posted this. Trump says he doesn't have sympathy for vicious Biden after cancer diagnosis. If you feel sorry for him, don't. So no, you're wrong that Republicans prayed. First of all, Trump's never prayed in his life. Second of all, about Mueller or about Rob Reiner, right? Wasn't that also Trump was saying that he died because he hated Trump too much? Or what Trump has said about Biden. If you want to stand up for the principle that we should just be really kind and not mention anything bad when someone passes, at least in the immediate aftermath, and then later on we can talk about the legacy more critically. All right, you can assert that, but don't pretend like that's anything that the leader of your party does, because he definitely does not do that. I like to be more sensitive, but it's not because, the other side does that. It's just something I like to do. Trump, who again is both the leader of the country and the leader of the Republican Party, has set a tone that this type of language that mocks people after dying is perfectly appropriate. That's what the president has tried to assert clearly. Now, Kash Patel posted something that raised a lot of eyebrows. He said in a post talking about Lindsey Graham and honoring him, he said the FBI is assisting local authorities and has made every necessary resource available, which made a lot of people go, wait, the FBI is investigating? Are there any questionable circumstances? Wouldn't this be something local authorities would be able to handle, but maybe because it's a senator? So that caused a lot of people to go, is that him kind of sparking conspiracies? We don't know. How sudden it was did make even me go, what? But then they said it's something with his heart. And okay, that happens, I guess, to people at age 71. Here is Tim Scott eulogizing
them. It happened on the golf course, and these two guys loved golf. I think Lindsey would say president wins more than I do, but he played pretty aggressively against the president, and I think it was that competitive spirit that they both loved and admired about each other. And Lindsey was super smart and witty. He had the ability to make you laugh, but he was making a point in the midst of it. And President Trump really understood that. And their relationship over the next 10 years, so to speak, from the time they were running against each other, became something that Lindsey could count on and President Trump could count on too. I can tell you, they played golf together more than any two other folks in public office at any time, I think, in history.
I hope this isn't inappropriate for me to say, but I really hope that one day, or who knows, it could be tomorrow, it could be 90 years from now, you never know, but that whenever the day comes that I do pass away, people who I knew pretty well have a better eulogy for me than talking about how much I played golf. You know what I mean? I noticed that in a lot of these reflections, it was very surface level from a lot of people. And I just hope that for all of us, we live a life that inspires people to the point where when you pass away, they have a lot to say about your character, about your heart, about your love for people, about your tenacity, and not just that you played a lot of golf with the president. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that that's a little... Or I hope that my buddy, which again, Lindsey Graham saw Trump as one of his friends, close friends, my buddy's not posting out memories of me holding photos of them. Here is Trump posting so sad about Lindsey Graham, and it's a photo of Lindsey Graham holding up the Wikipedia entry of Donald Trump's face, wearing a hat that says "Make Iran Great Again." I think if I posted this out, I would be accused of insensitivity. I think if I posted a photo of him wearing a "Make Iran Great Again" hat and holding up a photo of Trump and captioned it just "so sad," people would say how insensitive, his whole identity wasn't just kissing Trump's butt. Oh, you're making fun of him for his foreign policy stances by wearing that hat. Like, I think people would get on to me. But this is what Trump, his friend, and the president is posting, which is essentially his legacy is loving Trump, which I don't know as much about his legacy before Trump entered politics, because that's when I was getting engaged in politics. But it is definitely the case that his life story in politics was a pretty sad life story of choosing to go from Trump's a huge threat to this country all the way to Trump's the greatest president, Reagan, plus, 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 plus. And then the only other thing I can think of, which Trump sums up, I mean, this photo, that's really devastating in a way, is it not? The president, his friend, posts a photo that about sums up the last decade of Lindsey Graham's political life, pushing for needless wars and being subservient to Donald Trump. And that's sad. And I know that people who knew him personally might feel upset with me pointing that out. But on a political front, which was kind of his whole life, from what we can tell, there wasn't much of a personal life that was vibrant and active for the most part. Even Trump said that he was a workaholic. All he did was work. He said in this interview, this is what Trump was saying during the... So again, it's not just me. This is what Trump was saying to honor him. Workaholic. And so then his life in his career really was those two things the last decade. And that is a sad legacy, for sure. It absolutely is. Just to be... I see you holding the mic, Kayla. I do. I see it. I hear it. I appreciate it. But I don't trust you on such topics. Okay, go ahead, Kayla.
All I was going to say is that, unfortunately, when I do eulogize you 90 years from now, I will only talk about how fantastic you are at cornhole. Because what I saw this weekend, my God, you're so good at it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That
Also,
I would feel good by. But that will sound to some of my relatives in the crowd like a big euphemism. Man, Luke, he loved cornhole. He would cornhole in the morning, at nighttime, which I think, people have said about me. They've said it about me. It's a game. Cornhole's a game. Some people don't know that, and they think it's a sexual thing. Cornhole's a game. You throw the little hacky sack pouches things, and then and the reason why people are so in awe of my talent on this game is that people throw it like this normally. I throw it like a basketball, and it's pretty dang remarkable. But please say more than that.
Sorry, you're also so good at basketball. I saw this man shoot a 3 off rip, no warm up. It was crazy. It was insane.
Should we get back to the Lindsey Graham? Let's get back. Let's get back. Well, thank you. But thank you very much. But let's get back. Okay. Back to Trump's interview. All right, here we go.
How are you feeling?
Well, I don't feel great. He was a great guy, and he was a friend. He would call me all the time. He was just I'd say, stop calling me Lindsey. It was amazing. He just didn't.
Why is Trump incapable of human empathy? It sounds like that was the beginning of their interview. How are you feeling? I'm feeling good. I used to tell him, stop calling me Lindsey. and then Fox News uses the least appealing B-roll of Lindsey I've ever seen in my life. What are they doing?
Stop calling me Lindsey. It was amazing. He just didn't stop, and he was a worker. He was a total workaholic politician. Now, some people don't call that work. Some people call that a lot of talking. But everybody loved him.
Stop insulting. I guess you do whatever you want, but this is such a weird way to eulogize your friend. And then they keep showing photos emphasizing how short he was. They used a photo where he looks like a movie villain. What did they... This is all just so off. It's just off. No one has been able... Tim Scott's talking about how he loved playing golf with Trump. It's just like, could we get one anecdote of, when I was in a tough time, he called me and wished me well. Or he was a loving, not father, loving husband, loving friend. He was a loving colleague, right? Why are people struggling so much to think of something there? Here we go. Here's a sweet anecdote. Here we go.
And he was a nice man. He was a great guy. He loved playing golf.
Oh, with the golf again. I think Andy Bashir, Governor Bashir, kind of summed up an appropriate reaction, I think.
I've never met Senator Graham. His policies, other than support for Ukraine and belief that Russia was the aggressor, is about the only thing I can imagine that we agreed upon. But certainly thinking about his family today and how hard it must be for them.
That's about what I have for you. Other than he correctly identified Russia as the invader, which for many in the Republican Party is a difficult thing to do, and thought that Ukraine being able to defend itself was good, just about every single other thing he stood for, we did not. But we do feel love for anyone who loved him. We do feel sympathy for people because on a human level, a lot of the people who are like in a politician's life they're not even attached to the issues. They're just like a person in their life. And so this is sudden and tragic for them. And then we'll talk about coming up after I read what it looks like a frightening amount of super chats that I'm nervous to read. We'll talk about the legacy a little bit more in depth of what it means for all of us that we can pass away at any time and how that should be a reminder. And we'll use the lens of Lindsey Graham's life to kind of emphasize this point. It should serve as a reminder that standing up for what you believe in and not contradicting your principles for money or fame or relevance matters so much, because at any moment your life could be over, and then what was it for if you didn't choose to stand up for what's right? That's a really important takeaway, I think, today in particular. Okay, Intuition Jen sent 10 gifted memberships. Thank you so much for that. We love you. Christopher McCain said, you think your audience high today? High on life? Being high on life is good if you're alive. I hope this is something you want to read. Love y'all. That was just confusing enough that I don't know exactly what the meaning was of that. But yeah, we should all. While we have this very fragile life, I think we should try to be high on it. We should try to make the most of it, love those around us, and be good, right? Ellie Winbolt said, hello, Luke, Jaden Cole, and lovely Kayla. Today's my birthday. I'm turning 20. Much love to the show and for keeping me sane and informed. Happy birthday, 20 years old. No longer a teenager. Demented said, proof of life of McConnell. Isn't his wife in China still? Apparently she's back. She's in the photo, supposedly. We'll analyze that in a second. Christillionaire said, actor Sam Neill has also just passed. A gem now gone from the world. Hashtag the dinosaur man. Yvonne Romero said, do you think he was holding his magic wand when he passed? No, I don't. Office Zombie said, I thought you said my body, not my buddy. People will remember you for that body of yours. Wink. Thank you. Republican Jesus said Jaden is hot. Christopher McCain said when you eulogize him, you're not going to mention his... Okay. I'm going to read this, but this is about me. They're saying me because of... Yep. When you eulogize him, and by the way, if you're watching right now, we are going to get to much more in terms of stories, another Lindsey Graham segment, and some different things. This is about me. When you eulogize Luke, you're not going to mention his cock. That's spelled C-A-U-L-K. Just his cornhole, news twinking, musical prowess. The man has huge assets to memorialize. Thank you. Thank you. I did just remember that on Booze the News, I twerked in the camera. So click the join button. You can go rewatch on demand the last Booze in the News, which is our Friday edition of the bonus show. But we do a bonus show every single evening live, and it just goes off the rails. Like, Cole cut to a side camera. What were we talking about? We were talking about something, and I was trying to show them. Oh, Dr. Oz did this video, Jade. Jade was gone, but where he showed us how to squat, and when he tried to squat, he fell backwards. And so then I was showing how to properly squat, and I just started twerking. So if you want that, please click the join button, become a member, support the work that we do. It means a lot. This audience has gotten out of control. We got to turn down the sexual dial a little bit, I think. Just a little bit. But actually, I feel like Lindsey would appreciate it. Yeah. I do feel like he would appreciate it. So, because at least we're bringing joy into the world. That's what I like to think. Let's continue discussing the passing of Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. We discussed for those who knew him, who loved him, his friends, family. This is likely very sad, and my hearts do go out to them. And in a moment like this, I think it's fair to honestly assess the legacy of someone who very famously was kind of the epitome of power over principle, who chose, even reportedly explicitly would say he was choosing relevance over doing what's right, over standing up for a principle. He knew, let's use his alliance with Trump as an example. He knew that Trump was a danger to the country and the party and the democracy. But he threw out all of his past statements to stand by Trump. And why am I bringing this up? Is this like we're going to just talk crap on him because he died? No, this is, number one, an honest assessment of kind of his last decade of life that I do think exhibits a really sad component of what some politicians choose to do. But also because he did suddenly pass away, it kind of made me think about this a lot yesterday. His life and then his sudden death does serve a little bit as a reminder of why standing up for what's right every day is so important. Because some people justify their short-term immoral choices that they know to be a contradiction of their own principles by saying, I have a long time ahead of me. I'll just do this right now to stay close to power. But then ultimately I'll use that power for good, or ultimately I'll use my wealth for good or my influence. I'm going to do... But you never know how long your life's going to be. You never know when you're going to pass away. And that should serve to remind you that really nothing is as important as having a pure set of principles that you really care about, you really stand up for. So famously, Lindsey Graham posted back in 2016, if we nominate Trump, we will get destroyed and we will deserve it. This was before he switched. You also have other resurfaced video going viral today, for obvious reasons, of what he said about Trump during the 2016 election. And again, this is not about just mocking the dead or anything like that, but instead, because of how out of the blue it seems him dying is, it should be reminding all of you that his legacy being so brutally tarnished by his choices in the last 10 years to buddy up next to Trump despite knowing that was not right, that was the end of his story. Really, like that's the end of his story. There was no chance to quote unquote make it right or have a mea culpa or anything like that. And so for us, as we choose each day to live not knowing when the last day is going to be, man, that should be a reminder that standing up for what's right is so much more fulfilling. And if you care about this, creates a better legacy than just each day choosing the thing that's most politically advantageous or going to keep you relevant or keep you close to power. So, of course, there's this famous clip.
I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for. I think he's a kook. I think he's crazy. I think he's unfit for office. And I'm a Republican, and he's not. He's not a conservative Republican. He's an opportunist. He's not fit to be president of the United States. He's disparaged women. He has an 80% disapproval rating among Hispanics. At the end of the day, he would be the most flawed nominee in the history of the Republican Party. He accuses most illegal immigrants of being rapists and drug dealers. He plays into the idea that maybe Obama is a Muslim. 70% of us in South Carolina believe that Donald Trump is not a conservative Republican. We think that he's unfit for office, that he would be a terrible commander-in-chief. He doesn't have the temperament or judgment. I think Donald Trump is a political car wreck, and people slow down and look at the wreck, but they eventually move on.
So again, it's like that wasn't that long ago. And the time in between him saying that and him switching to Trump's the greatest president ever was very, very short. It was a very narrow time window where he did that 180. And so now, as he passed, I'm sure earlier than he expected, than I expected, I would have had a lot of people that I would have guessed were in worse health than him before this took place. And again, if you're just watching this segment, you didn't see our past breakdown, he had some sort of cardiac event, tear in his aorta. And so now the last component of his story is knowingly violating his own values. Because, as reportedly behind the scenes, he would say to people, it's the best thing you could do is just stay close to relevance. Like, if you can just keep yourself close to the relevant source of power, then that will be good for your career. And he stayed in the Senate a very long time, so apparently that works. But then, especially once someone passes, what does that mean? It works, but what does that mean then in the story of your life? And then, of course, this famous clip of him.
If you can't admire Joe Biden as a person, then it's probably you got a problem. You need to do some self-evaluation, because what's not to like? Here's what I can tell you, that life can change just like that. Don't take it for granted. Don't take relationships for granted. I called him after Bo died, and he basically said, well, Bo was my soul. We've talked for a long time. He came to my ceremony and said some of the most incredibly heartfelt things that anybody could ever say to me. And he's the nicest person I think I've ever met in politics.
Is that right?
He is as good a man as God ever created, and we don't agree on much. But I think he's been dealt a really gut blow. I think he focuses on what he's got to do, not what he lost. His heart's been ripped out, but he's going to make sure that the other members of his family is well taken care of. And he started talking about his grandkids.
And so, going from that to saying completely unverified, baseless claims about Biden crime family or needing to be investigated, right? The point in that is to demonstrate a detachment from a consistent worldview. And I think on a personal level, I'm sure he did feel those things. But at every turn, politics triumphed for him, people. And so that's tough. That's a tough legacy. And I'm sure he thought there was going to be a happier ending. And that is tragic. I remember saying in segments about him specifically, I remember this rant before, that I would say we would review some clip of him saying something I knew he didn't believe because of all the past statements he had made. And I would say, and it's not just to him, I've said to many people, what do you feel like you will feel at the end of your life? What do you think you'll feel about what you fought for, what you accomplished, who you tried to help? Because in the short term, it seems so appealing to stay a senator or stay in the Oval Office with the president frequently, or getting to golf with the president, or being a friend of a powerful person, or able to get reelected because you haven't made the leader of your party your enemy. Okay, in the short term, I get on some level why people go, well, if I don't have power, then what was this all for? But then you think about the end of your life, and what will you want to be remembered for? While not all of us are going to be able to rise up into some huge position of power, not all of us are going to be able to leave a bunch of money to our next generation. But what you can choose is to be extraordinary. I remember at my grandpa's funeral, the phrase someone used that was so impactful was, he was an extraordinary, ordinary man. Oof, that can get me choked up. Because it's not like he left some insane generational wealth or something. It's not like he became a powerful governor or something. But hundreds and thousands of people who had interacted with him all felt so struck by the impact he had made on their life. This extraordinary, ordinary man who so frequently, I mean, there was story after story at his funeral, including, my own eulogy to him, of the ways that he positively impacted people. Again, not because he had been able to achieve something like Lindsey Graham, senator, or Trump, president. Not some status, but the way that his heart directed his love for people. And that whoever they were, whatever their identity were, he just chose to love them so unconditionally. And that to me is a much more impactful and inspiring legacy than someone who everyone kind of knows they chose their own acclaim, their own fame, their own notoriety over every day choosing to do what is right for their own principles and for the people around them. So that was a reminder to me, given how suddenly he passed, that choose the Luke's grandpa life over the Lindsey Graham life. And then sometimes people choose what to do what's right, and it does get them up to the very top of the status ladder. And that's awesome too. But we live in a country that I think rewards so much the Lindsey Graham direction of every day wake up and figure out how do you inch up the ladder, how do you stay close to power, as opposed to how do you do what's right for people and choose moral principles each day, even if sometimes that sets you back in your career or doesn't allow you to rise up to a certain status. And that was really striking me today. I got called out by Josh Johnston correctly, who said, turn down the dial. I said, we might need to turn down the sexual dial a little bit. You did this, Luke. Yeah, that's true. This is my fault. Jim Caulfield said, Luke and company, you're the best and you make me smile every day. Thank you. Kiko Cappy said, I think chat's still reeling from Bimbo Gate segment. Yes. It is funny. I'm trying to think of a good example of... I can't think of a good... Oh, here's one. If you talk with your friends and you're a little bit more raunchy, you're behind the scenes, you're having drinks, you're making funny jokes, okay? But then you hang out with your parents or their parents, and then they keep talking that way, and you're like, whoa, that was like a us hanging out thing. That wasn't a thing you say in front of in this bigger group of older adults. And it's like that with Booze in the News, I feel like. Sometimes people will bring the energy over from the bonus show. Members will bring the energy over from Booze in the News into the public audience. And I'm like, guys, that's our little members only secret. We don't talk like that in front of everybody. Me Talk Music said, I don't know why Luke brought out all of that wedding cake to the set. Sorry, I could only dial back a tad. I don't know why Luke brought out all of that wedding cake to the set. Oh, my butt. Is that I didn't know that was a phrase. Elsa said, who is the next after Lindsey? If Mitch McConnell's dying, are you working USA? No, I don't think we're not wishing for anyone ill or anything. Intuition Jen said, some men improve the world only by leaving it. This is a quote from Oscar Wilde. You know, wow. That's what I'll say. Wow. On to a different topic. We will get back to Lindsey in a second, but I think we need a little bit of a break from it. Let's talk about this. During one of Trump's interviews over the last 24 hours, he responded to the bombshell report that finally has been released from a Department of Homeland Security Inspector General breakdown of the security failures. What happened at Butler? People keep asking. And you have the right-wing conspiracy theorists being like it was a Joe Biden op to take Trump out, and he MK Ultra'd Thomas Crooks, and Thomas was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And then you have other conspiracy theorists across the political spectrum who are like, no, it was done by Trump. It was staged. Well, this is the main report we're getting on what did happen. It comes from Trump's Department of Homeland Security, so I'm not saying you take it as gospel, but oh my gosh, have not seen a bigger series of, if we take this at face value, security failures than what happened here. Report, Secret Service missed over 100 alerts before Trump assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. Hey, Secret Service, what you doing? What are you doing? This is what you're there for. Nearly 2 years, and again, I'm going to get to this interview clip described by Mediaite as Trump bizarrely recounting this experience. But first, nearly 2 years after an attempt on Trump's life, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Office of the Inspector General has released its final investigative report of the incident. Now, this is one of those moments where you say, how much money do you think they spent on this report? Millions. Absolutely. 2 years? If you had given me whatever the money was that they gave the Department of Homeland Security used, the Office of the Inspector General, you should have given that to me, and within 1 week I could have given you the same report. The report is, they missed everything. That's the report. The report is hundreds of pages and pages of, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And the takeaway is, they missed everything. They were on a coffee break. They weren't communicating with local law enforcement well enough. They were lazy and didn't get up onto this roof. Okay? Why did that take 2 years for us to find out? I could have told you that. Yeah, every single warning, like people going, hey, whoa, hey, look, there's a guy there, was not responded to properly. Thank you. 64, not hundreds of pages, 64 pages to tell us every single possible indication that something was wrong they accidentally ignored. The key finding revealed members did not receive 102 radio transmissions from local law enforcement concerning increasingly intense search for a suspicious person. Instead, investigators found that the Secret Service only received 5 phone calls and 3 text messages about crooks. Why didn't they do anything about the 5 phone calls and the 3 text messages? Just bizarre. And I get that security failures happen. They do, okay? Secret Service members did not alert President Trump's protective detail about the concerns of a suspicious person because it did not establish a joint communications room with representatives from all law enforcement agencies. One of the ways I know that this could be a valid explanation is in terms of like are they just saying this but it was staged narrative, or are they just saying this but Biden did it? It was actually Joe Biden up there in a costume. You know, those TV shows were like, and then Biden's like, ha, gotcha, Jack.
It's Joe Biden.
The reason why this is valid in comparison to those assertions is that does happen a lot. A lot of our past security failures in major events in this country are just a lack of communication between the different law enforcement entities. Because I've even heard, knowing someone who is involved sometimes in these sorts of security details, local law enforcement show up, maybe some county sheriffs show up, and then the Secret Service, and then, this and that, and then Elon Musk's going to be there, so they bring his detail, and then all of them are sort of thinking, oh, wait, they have that area, do we have what? And then they don't communicate. Dumb, but that does happen in real life a lot. So then here's Trump reflecting on this report.
He has a purpose for you. Look at George Washington, too. He was shot at. But how are you feeling today? I think we all just want to know. And after the report that came back, I hate to Monday morning quarterback and put down law enforcement because they do such an amazing job, but they missed some things in the report showing that. What's your response? What's your reaction to that?
We're talking about the Butler report?
Yes.
Basically. Well, they blew Butler because they had one building that was empty, and they blew it. Now, at the same time, David, our sniper from 300 yards, was able to act within less than 4 seconds and took out somebody that he didn't know existed, which was unbelievable, the job.
You mean he didn't know he existed before he realized he existed, or he shot someone he didn't know existed? That doesn't... Okay, wait. I'll give my take in a second. Let's keep watching. Somebody wrote that the energy of this show is brought to you by Pep, and I should, before I play the rest of this clip, encourage you to take advantage of the last day, I think. Today is the last day. We're going to keep it open for one last day of the 20% off 4th of July discount code. Happy birthday, all caps, no spaces. My family-run energy drink company that's gut friendly, no artificial sweeteners. We really worked to make sure the formula was treating your body as it deserves to be treated, as opposed to so many of the other energy drink options, active probiotics. Go to drinkpep.com. I mean, I don't even know if we're making any money off of how big of a sale this is. So 20% off, just ripping any profit margin, so that you can give it a try if you haven't already, or if you have, a little cheaper, drinkpep.com, order it directly to your doorstep. 3 brothers, 2 of them actively in the military. We're talking about active deployment right now. Super scary for the Beasley family, but you can support the work we're doing by going to drinkpep.com to be much more energetic than you're hearing Trump gargling through this phone call.
4 seconds and took out somebody that he didn't know existed, which was unbelievable, the job he did, because if he didn't do that, you would have had a lot of people. And maybe not me, because they were on top of me pretty quickly. I had a lot of people on top of me, and they were very brave. Secret Service was very brave. They were on top of me very, very fast. They saw what was happening. Everybody saw very quickly. I knew exactly what was happening. There was nothing... it was amazing how I understood exactly, and I knew it was the ear. They thought it was all over because the ear bleeds. Some little fact. You'll ask your doctor who's fantastic, by the way. Just gave the report on Lindsey. He's such a great guy and such a great doctor. Ooh. But you'll ask him. It has to do with cartilage. The ear bleeds more than any. So I got hit in the ear, and it was a bloody mess. But I knew I only got hit there, and they thought I got hit at many different locations because of the blood, the amount of blood. And, they blew it. They blew it because of the one thing. After that, they were incredible. They were very brave. They stood over. And our sniper from...
Now let me pause it. Because here's what I want to say. I am not just not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm physically repulsed by people making assertions without evidence to make a more salacious theory. Why? Because I'm in the very space and live with the same incentives as the other people who do more conspiracy theorizing. So I have to fight the urge to choose salaciousness for views. And we do that very well, but that means we sacrifice a lot of audience to people who are willing to perpetuate whatever narratives feel more sexy for an audience. And then sometimes I see how well that does for other people, and I go, oh no, that's so irritating, because it would be so easy to do, but we prioritize the truth. So let me just put that at the front, but then say, I have not seen any credible, evidentially backed theories for what alternatively happened other than a deranged guy, Thomas Crooks, climbed on the roof, shot at Trump, killed one of Trump's supporters, got shot by Secret Service, and the reason that was allowed to happen was because of a bunch of security failures. Accidental. And for those who do have broader theories, I see why, if you want to believe there's a conspiracy, Trump fuels it so much. Because the way he so defensively insists, it was bleeding a lot because of the ear thing. The ear is really bloody. It makes me go, I know that people say weird things, so that doesn't make me automatically go, oh, that's evidence of a theory. But if you already believed, as a lot of people in our audience do, and a lot of people out in the world do, some of these different bizarre conspiracy theories, then him being like so defensive over, I swear that's why there's someone spot. Now, another reason why the blood could have run so aggressively down his face, but then the wound that caused that be healed within like 48 hours completely with no mark, could have to do with a barely grazing, and then he has all these blood thinners or whatever he's taking that he's now revealed because of his heart stuff. So then that kind of can make it gush more. Okay, all right. But why? And then number two, for the significance of this event, it is weird how he doesn't talk about it more. So that also fuels conspiracies. And I don't want to pretend like I don't find those things weird while also telling you not to just blindly buy into claims that have a pretty high standard of substantiation given how big of a claim they are. But then I feel like there was one other thing. Oh, how defensive of Secret Service he is. If I almost died, I'd be so pissed at Secret Service for not securing an obvious point of a threat. Like that place, again, we were there at this event when it happened. I almost made I mean, Cole looks kind of like Thomas. No. Okay, I'm sorry. I knew I shouldn't. I knew I wouldn't. I was also going to say that we said, don't go up there, Thomas. But no. Okay, that didn't happen, obviously. It's very sad. It is sad. Someone died. It's sad. Okay, so, but we saw, I mean, that roof is like very obviously a place where you would want to secure if you're going to make sure no one shoots it. A presidential candidate. So I would be so mad. And the way that he's not, he's like, yeah, they blew Butler. They blew Butler really hard. But they also did great. They jumped on top of me so quickly. They were all on top of me, and it was, they did it great right after blowing Butler. So, I go, why aren't you more mad? That's weird. So I get those weird factors, but again, someone trying to kill someone's a weird factor. There's going to be weird factors to a weird event, a bad event, a mind-bending event.
Very far away. He was on the other side of a field. He hit one shot, one bullet, and it was over. And if he didn't do that, this guy had like 300 rounds of ammunition he would have killed because they had 55,000 people there at that rally. And then we went back, and we had 117,000 people showed up. We went back. We had to go back. I always have to go back because you can't let them win. You can't let crazy people and bad people.
And he's talking about crowd sizes. Okay. I saw someone say the PEP discount code is not working. Maybe it was set to expire after a week.
I noticed some people were putting a space in happy birthday, but it's one word as well. It is
one word, but maybe it was set to expire. I will contact the relevant people, my brother, and get that situated. If you're watching this in video form, we'll have that fixed and have like one more day of the discount code. And then if you're watching live, just order it without the discount. No, you can wait until a little later and we'll get that fixed up. Whew. Hi.
This isn't bad.
Okay.
I know Trump is like a super duper like superstitious person. I kind of feel like he doesn't talk about it for like, cause he's like superstitious. He's like, if I talk about it, like something bad's gonna happen, or like it might make someone think about it again. He kind of gives that vibe. He is,
yeah. He does seem really superstitious. So. Yeah. Who knows his worldview on these things? Because to know that he believes your body's just one battery and working out is a waste of energy and you only have a limited amount of energy you can use makes me think there's all sorts of weird superstitions he has. Right? About who knows what. Okay, let me quickly check in. You have Keaton saying, remember Secret Service also is main federal agency that investigates financial fraud. They're probably being defunded or too busy with the amount of investigations going on to worry about security details. Maybe so. Office Zombie said, Bimbo Gate? No, this is about the energy that Luke brings, pep energy. Emulus Rex, I feel like we haven't heard from you in a while. Good to hear from you. So just FYI, the pep discount code isn't working. So that's what indicated that for me. Darn, I hate that I made a plug without it. But again, later we'll have it fixed for one more day. But you want to buy it anyways. That is an important factor. Already we priced as low as we can for how expensive it is for us to make. Now for this, you could have put a lot of money on within 24 hours of Lindsey Graham passing, there would be hundreds of different wild conspiracy theories. Because now you don't really die in politics without there being conspiracy theories. Even when you're 71, and I was shocked that Lindsey Graham passed away just because he seemed like he was fine in terms of his health. But then you hear heart attack, and you're like, yeah, 71-year-old. He seemed kind of, not the healthiest guy in the world. I guess that can't happen. But Alex Jones says, no, sir. Alex Jones already has a whole plot that he believes is the actual story behind Lindsey Graham.
It was the deep state 100%.
Yeah. Deaths. So let's go ahead and check in on what the conspiracy theory is developing now on the Alex Jones Show.
Pacific. Everything lines up that Lindsey Graham was killed yesterday in Ukraine. He was there. They blow up the hotel he was reportedly with NATO staying at. It appears right after, we know they blew it up right after, a few hours after he left a secret drone factory, and then he began to post and tweet videos and photos of himself at it. And then the Russians blow it up with hundreds of missiles that came in, that and other targets, and then hit the hotel. This comes after the Russians threatened more Kiev strikes.
Does anyone in Alex Jones' world ever just die? Like, is he also going to say someone might have poisoned Mitch McConnell when Mitch McConnell passes? Like, did he say that Jimmy Carter, maybe somebody poisoned him at over 100? Or a drone strike got Jimmy Carter or something? It's just like no one ever just dies from a heart attack, which was Lindsey Graham's, a tear in his aorta, in Alex Jones's world. Now, I got sucked in a little bit. I'm going to keep playing, not to this, but to some of the, he just left Ukraine, could Russia have... But if you're going to see Ukrainian officials, if he were leaving Russia and died suddenly, I would be a little bit more like, huh? But number one, Ukraine's not going to do it, which is not what Alex Jones is asserting. And then Russia being able to kill Lindsey Graham after he had gotten back to the United States also doesn't track. I'm not saying it's impossible. Like when I was there, you remember there was those suspicious agents we assumed by the end of it that were like listening to our conversation, and we were thinking, was this was probably Ukrainian intelligence, which would be fine if they want to follow, but it is strange for me to walk to the front lines. I get why they'd be like, can we send someone to track this guy? This guy's a little bit too bubbly for the circumstances here. I'm like, hey, oh my gosh, go Ukrainian stuff. Look, we're selling nice cock shirts on the website. Have y'all seen this? And they're like, who is this blonde bitch? So I actually wasn't offended by it, but it was just weird. They were sitting next to us, and the soldier I was with was like, those were probably our intelligence, just making sure you're all on the up and up and stuff, since you're not the type of person they see going to the front lines very often, like in my sweaters. I don't think I was wearing my sweater. Maybe I was, honestly. So I actually understood that, but we also were a little bit like, we were really close to where the Russian forces was that a Russian duo? Because it was these two guys who were like filming us and stuff. A Russian duo who maybe was there to figure out what the scuttlebutt was. And that would have been freaky. I'm not saying it's impossible, but in this case, it doesn't make any sense because Lindsey died in his house in D.C. Alex is trying to say he died from a drone strike in Ukraine, but it's being covered up. And by the way, if that were the case, just so you know, I don't put it past Russia to try to kill Lindsey Graham or kill anybody. But that would be an act of war, number one, and they don't want to go to war with us. But number two, if that did happen, I'm all over the place. Alex Jones, would blame NATO somehow. That's the annoying part, is he's thinking, what if Russia killed a U.S. senator while he was visiting Ukraine? And for Alex, he would not even place that on Russia's doorstep. He wouldn't be outraged with Russia. He would make it again about the West is trying to go to war with Russia. And because, of course, he runs with a lot of those propaganda talking points as well.
Liberal. Happy fun, la la la.
Yes, that's me. That's me. So I do want to note that as we continue listening. He is constantly perpetuating Russian nonsense on his show.
Back in May, and told all U.S. diplomats and personnel, get out of the major cities. Do not go into any government buildings or hotels. We are going to start killing everyone in them. Russia threatens more Kiev airstrikes and tells foreign nationals to leave, particularly warning U.S. diplomatic corps to leave. Here's the headline out of RT. This happened yesterday. Russia hits Kiev drone manufacturing plant and other targets like the main NATO hotel. There you go.
So, podcast listeners, if you're not watching, then I should describe. He is doing the notorious Alex Jones thing, where he has an overhead camera of his desk where he reviews printed out tweets from online and then underlines them. Instead of just showing, like any normal person does, on their computer monitor, the tweet, he prints it out and then does an overhead camera of the printout because it's legit, because he's investigating.
So, Russia News has this to say. Did Russia just eliminate warmonger Lindsey Graham in Kiev? The U.S. senator who famously called, we'll play the clips coming up, killing Russians the best investment we ever made, close quote, has died at 70 following a sudden illness, close quote, right after his trip to Ukraine. There's no evidence of him in an ambulance, at the hospital, any of this. And it may be true, but this all points towards this. I'd say this is a probability. He was killed by the Russians. The 48-hour death timeline is too wild to ignore. Number one, Graham meets Zelensky and tours a hidden drone manufacturing facility in Kiev. Hours later, the Russian Ministry of Defense launches a devastating missile attack, completely obliterating that exact factory. 3, simultaneously, Russian precision missiles a bit later leveled a high-profile hotel in Kiev packed with top NATO commanders where Graham was reportedly staying. 4, Graham instantly dies suddenly right after returning home. He wanted to bring hellish sanctions, close quote, to Russia, but looks like he went straight to hell.
Why does he always close quote but never open quote? He always close quotes. He said Graham instantly dies suddenly, close quote. He wanted to bring hellish sanctions, close quote, to Russia. And then, yeah, so I have seen, other than the fact that he was in Ukraine and he was touring these factories, and maybe they got hit after. Again, that happened to me too. You go somewhere and then you leave and then it gets hit. And it's terrifying, but not evidence that it was anything other than dying of natural causes. Again, that's not to be like, because Russia would, of course they would. Morally, Putin would direct the assassination of whoever. And in the case of Lindsey, we just talked about, I can't think of almost anything positive about his legacy other than he was a big supporter of Ukraine. And I'm a big supporter of Ukraine. So it's like, hey, now, I hate to say this, but him being a huge supporter kind of hurt the cause. So in his case, he's so obviously, or he was so obviously on board with almost any wars, it seemed. So when he goes and holds up the drones, it's like, you're doing this from such a war standpoint, as opposed to like Ukraine needs the resources to stop the war because Russia is continuing the war, right? But hey, Lindsey did correctly assess Russia was invading Ukraine. Ukraine should be able to defend itself against Russia's invasion. And us giving aid to them was not us going to war with Russia. But I think Russia would prefer that Lindsey Graham is alive. Because I think Lindsey Graham being public in his support for Ukraine made more people against Ukraine than for Ukraine. Really. And that's a sad thing to say. But I think because of how much Lindsey Graham was perceived to be and was a quote-unquote warmonger, close quote, that made it seem that supporting Ukraine in the eyes of some, like a lot of Republicans, must be a warmongering stance. Because if you are a anti-war Republican and you see the very pro-war Republican Lindsey Graham supporting Ukraine, you might funnel that into the same category as like his stance on Iran or something. But it's not that. In this case, I've analyzed this about 2 zillion hours, and our only path to peace there is for Ukraine to be really successful in defending themselves. But I actually think he did more brand damage to Ukraine than helped. So that's just a little aspect to this. But yeah, of course Russia wouldn't be morally against an assassination, but we just don't have any solid evidence of that. And according to the medical examiner and the first responders and the different reports, it appears he did have some sort of heart event in his D.C. home. Now, who called? How did the first responders know to break down his door? I don't know any of that. Could have been someone trying to reach out to him for something and he wasn't responding. But right now, that's the only evidence we have. And I'm just getting sick of people jumping ahead of where the facts stand on any given issue. And that's the whole thing with Alex Jones. If you wake up and you learn of this news, you're like, oh my gosh, Lindsey Graham died? And your choices are you can go watch people give, if they're liberals like me, a sort of critical analysis of his legacy, and then just a quick breakdown of what the facts are. Or you can hear a 30-minute story about what if this was all a part of some big assassination plot. A lot of people, whether they think it's true or not, are going to prefer to go watch the interesting story. So that's the bummer with our current political online incentive structure. Incentive structures. Eve, I did not leave my room and barely spoke this whole weekend. It was the best rejuvenation weekend, but that means my mouth forgot how to talk. So that's why I'm stumbling over so many of my words. I'm telling you, this little connection between the brain and the mouth, it stays sharp through reps like anything else. So when I go a whole weekend just vegging out, Michael and I, you've never seen a veg out session like this. It was, other than stumbling to the door to grab some food, it was just TV and relaxing. It was awesome. But that means I didn't practice speaking. Sally sells seashells at the seashore. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. Should have done my morning exercises. Yvonne said, it's hilarious the giggle Kayla had when you said they blew Butler. Butler. What a little slut, Butler. Keaton said, InfoWars has reported that Alex Jones has popped like a balloon, and it's a clone double now. Well, we need to do some investigations. We're getting news into the show that Alex oh gosh. Cameron J. Hankins said, I posted last week about my anniversary. My wife was giddy and mad I called you a cock. I had to explain the saga of Luke's gap filling cock. I'm so glad that conversation took place. Digital Design and Innovation said, Kayla, can we get an overhead camera going for Luke? I crap over it. It's just because I'm jealous. I wish I could have an article printed out and underline it with an overhead camera. That seems so cool. Seems so fun.
It's just a camera that shows the messages that I sent you on your phone to read out loud.
Right. Let's go ahead and just... You want me to hold this?
Yeah, there we go.
Let's go ahead and... So what? I do have a message for you. I can't write on this. Oh my gosh, y'all are going to think my handwriting is so bad. Wait, cut to the other camera for a second. Let me just quickly do something here because this is important coming into the show. We do have for you right here. You see this? You see this? Now let me do this. Look at this. You see this? Ready? Drinkpep.com, close quote. You see this? Okay. Let's make sure we don't cut to that again. I feel like we could drop it and get into... You just never know. You know, what if it accidentally does like a cold foot cam? And then all of a sudden people are getting something for free they should have to pay for, is all I'm saying. Okay. On to this. You might have...
What was that?
Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. I meant to say Putin. You might have felt some doom and gloom after the Plattner saga, both because someone who a lot of Democrats were excited about, his sort of working class, oyster farmer, deep voice, beard dude, walking around doing dude things, aesthetic, and because the polls looked like he could beat Susan Collins, there was a doom and gloom whenever the sexual assault allegation came out, both for his character and for the politics of the matter. This main Senate race is going to be critical for Democrats to take over power in the Senate come the November midterms. And so all of us were like, what the heck? It's a letdown. It's just gross, bad details we're getting. And then the politics of it. What do? They only have a couple weeks to figure out a new candidate. Well, I have a secret, exciting development that might serve as a little hopium that I might have been looking at this wrong. My thought was this is going to be another Biden dropping off the ticket last minute situation where it's going to doom the chances because there won't be enough time for a alternative candidate to have their campaign all set up. But this just might help Democrats. What? So the state of things right now is that Plattner has dropped his race. And he's still white, but I'm saying his campaign race. Okay. Oh, whatever. So just get out of here. Just cut it out for a second. No, so he's suspended his campaign. He has filed the paperwork to drop his name off the ballot. Now I'm going to show you in a little bit the one of the leaders of the main Democratic Party explaining the process.
He happened to turn black.
Oh, no. Graham Plattner's like, well, now that I'm out of the race and I don't have to be some white working class guy, I want to announce that I'm secretly... Oh, gosh. It's all been AI. So, but this is the exciting part, okay? A new candidate has to be picked. Okay. That must be hard. Okay. According to Harry Enton, the numbers on this might mean any other Democratic candidate against Susan Collins could face off better in the polls. So I don't know if that's true. We're going to look at the numbers here in a second. But I swung quickly from, oh, it's over. We can't win Maine now, to maybe we have a better chance? Oh my gosh. And then, as I referenced, we'll get to a leader of the main Democratic Party explaining the process for what this will look like. But of course, this video's not working. Well, that's a bummer, because that's kind of the whole segment. What? All right, everyone pause. We'll cut this out of the video version, but we need to figure out what's going on here with the core video. Yeah, it's not loading.
It was the deep state 100%.
All right, well, I will... I don't know what I'm going to do, frankly. I feel like Tony Dokapil right now. Are we doing Mark Kelly or are we doing Tim Walz?
Copy and paste it into Safari. See how that goes.
Okay, we're going to copy and paste. Do you want to read the super chat that came in, Kayla? Yeah. And then I'll see what I can do here on the technology front.
Dashing Dandy, who's been a member for 8 months, says, hi from Finland. A while ago, a Norwegian fan said you should come to
Smoky
Norway.
Mo's Texas
I
barbecue.
promise I will make the trip so there's at least 2 of us.
Right on. I totally heard that. I totally heard whatever you just said. It was so good. It was like this and then that. And I thought, wow, and what? And such. Oh, it worked, Jaden. You're a genius. Let's do this. All right, so we were where we were, and now we are here, and let's go.
Was an anchor to your chances to winning the Maine Senate race. Why do I say that? Well, why don't we just look first off at the prediction market odds, because I think this really puts it into perspective for you. Democrats have a better chance now than they did before the latest accusation against Graham Plattner, of course, hit the media just about a week ago. You can see it right here. Chance Dems win the Maine Senate race. Look at this. On July 2nd, at the beginning of the month, it was a 50-50 proposition. Look at this. But now Democrats, without Plattner, actually have a majority chance of winning in the Maine Senate race, a 63% chance, significantly up from the 50% chance that they had at the beginning of the month. Why is it? Why is it that the people who are putting their money where their mouths are, why do they think Democrats have a better chance now than they did at the beginning of the month? And it is simply put, because Graham Plattner was greatly underperforming the fundamentals in Maine. You can see it right here. Just take a look at this. Okay, Maine Senate polling. You know, Plattner versus...
Look at this. In one of these polls, this is New York Times, Siena, and Fox poll, Plattner was down a point compared to Susan Collins. But then if you just do a generic Democrat versus Collins, they're up 12 points. I feel like a dum-dum right now. Can I just tell you all, like, real frankly, there's a lot of races going on. There's a lot of campaigns. I had to spend a long time on an investigation to whether or not Tallarico was a vegan. It was, so maybe I just missed something, but has this been the case the whole time? That a generic Democrat polled way better? I don't care, actually, because we are where we are now. And I'm proud to say I needed that little bit of good news. I really thought this was going to be a quagmire. And it is still. Maine Democrats still haven't picked an alternative candidate, and then you have that whole thing where they can't do a whole primary, so they're going to have to do like a convention, and it'll still hear the voice of the people, but what's going to exactly take place, and will people feel like it was transparent enough? We'll get to that in a second. But the fact that there's still definitely hope, if not even excitement, that this could go blue, because that would be so critical for Democrats' power in the Senate after the midterms, and then what they can do with that to hold Trump accountable is pretty darn major. That gives me a nice boost. That doesn't mean the candidate will be good, though. And I hear you. Some people in the comments are like, yeah, but they're going to put in an establishment cuck. Maybe. But a lot of the people who look like they're going to get into it, I think the pulse of Maine Democrats right now is progressive. And I think the alternative is still going to end up being progressive. So we're going to have to watch it play out, but this definitely is hopeful. Let's keep watching.
Versus Collins. Collins in the average poll actually had a slight advantage, was up by a point. Compare that to the generic Senate candidate, that is a Democrat versus a Republican without the names attached. Who did Mainers want to represent them in the Senate? Who did they want to control the Senate, Democrats or Republicans? You can see it right here. Democrats had a 12-point advantage, on the generic ballot Senate in Maine, and this was prior to the latest accusation against Plattner. He was already running well behind the fundamentals. Now,
I just saw a comment come in from Sea of Flowers that said, I'm the dumb Luke. Can you explain how those polls work? How do they get these approval and disapproval ratings from? So here's the thing. They do it through the magic poll. They go to the magic tree of poll, and like an Avatar, they plug in their little poll penis. What are those things, in Avatar? The little tails, the little magic poll tail, and they put it into the tree of poll. And then the tree of poll says, this is the poll numbers. And then we all go, wow, that's significant. No, in reality, you get a group, and you strategically select through phone calls or online submissions. You specifically select for demographics, age ranges, party affiliation, likelihood to vote. So you ask people these different questions. And then you take a group of people that you think is generally representative. You have a weighted depending on how many actual black voters did you talk to versus the percentage in that state or in that particular congressional district. And then you weight them more strongly if you didn't talk to enough, or you underweight them if you talked to too many relative to the percentage of the population. And then same thing with white voters, then college educated. And then you grab up enough people, maybe like 2,000 people if it's a good poll or something. And then you do math. And then you do, hey, this is what we got out of this 2,000 member group of Maine voters that we think is generally representative of, or we've done the math to correctly weight or underweight the different demographic groups within this pool, and then we see what the percentage in a smaller group is of what people think about the approval rating or what they think about a candidate or who they're going to vote for, and then you just extrapolate that out to the rest of the state. That's when they say, 30% of Maine voters believe. It's not actually that they talked to 30% of Maine voters. It's that they took a group of them that they think check enough boxes of the different identity groups and the different party affiliations, and they do a little math to correct for what for syncing that to the population numbers, and then they give you a poll outcome. So is that perfect? No. But does it get kind of close? Yeah. It gives us a gist of the state of things. So if you went and literally asked every single American if they approved or disapproved of Trump, would it come out exactly to the 30-something% that all these polls say? No, but it would probably come out to something within the margin of error that they put when they announce these outcomes, because we're actually more predictable than you would think. So when you get, enough young voters, enough white voters, black voters, Hispanic voters, women voters, male voters, and you grab about 2,000 of them, and then you run the numbers, it actually ends up coming out pretty close. You see this in election results. Usually the election results pretty in the ballpark of what the polls looked like. So they're more accurate than some people give them credit for, but they're definitely not gospel because of the fact that you can't actually go and poll every single person. Kayla.
If you think about it, I feel like the same people who are like active voters are also more likely to answer a phone call. I don't know why. Like, not even just like an age range, like older people vote more, older people will answer a random phone call they don't know. It just feels kind of like that would track.
Yeah.
So I do trust that, yeah.
Yes, but a lot of people say, I've never gotten called for a poll, which I haven't either. What? You have? I've never. I don't answer those phone calls. And so then it feels like it can't be perfect. It's not perfect, but it's more accurate than you would think. Because when I explain it that way, and that was the most jumbled way to explain what a poll is ever, but you get my point. It's a little test group, and it actually extrapolates pretty well for some reason. Because we're more predictable than we like to admit. And so whenever you get, enough people from this state and that state and this state and that state and this identity group and that identity group, and then you collect that to say this percentage of Americans support Trump, it actually is kind of accurate, weirdly. I hope that answered your question. Did you like my tree poll? I really want to stick my tail in a tree and it connect. I really want, Avatar, the blue people Avatar, they put it's like... I really wish I could do that. I really, really wish I could do that. It's on my mind a lot lately. So
you think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Here is one of the leaders of the main Democratic Party explaining the process now that Plattner's dropped out.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to provide you all an update on the U.S. Senate race here in Maine. As you know, the Maine Democratic Party has been working around the clock to develop a process to replace our U.S. Senate nominee that is open, inclusive, transparent, and fair. The integrity of this process is just as important as the outcome, and we are committed to ensuring that Democrats across our state can have confidence in both. Unfortunately, Graham Plattner's team has repeatedly reached out to us in an attempt to put their thumb on the scale of what this process looks like. We have repeatedly reiterated to Graham Plattner's team that they have no role in determining our next Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate, nor in determining what this...
So I think this was the wrong video because she did not explain the process there, but she later posted a video saying we're going to be as transparent as possible. We're rolling out the details. We'll announce this day by day of what this little mini convention is going to look like for selecting a new candidate and how the process will play out. And she keeps insisting there's going to be transparency. I hope there is, because the biggest problem you run into now is I agree that, of course, Plattner's team is going to want to have a say because he actually got the nomination. But then the candidacy went down in flames. And if you handpick the next candidate, all of your stank is going to be on that person. If it's like, this is Plattner's handpicked candidate. So I get the urge to want to have a say, but I think they're going to have to just detach. It went down in flames. You're going to have to step back. The hope is the pulse that was causing him to get support within the Democratic Party, that we want more radical change, we want a more radically pro-working class candidate, will still manifest in the ultimate choice. That's the important part. Because it is true that if he fought so much against the quote-unquote Democratic establishment, and then because of allegations against him, his candidacy fails, but then some generic establishment candidate gets the nomination, that will suppress Democratic turnout for sure. So it's important that doesn't happen, but we'll see what does end up playing out. Okay, a little bit more from the audience. Posiwi became a member by clicking the join button. Thank you so much. Christopher McCain said, please do a weekly conspiracy theory parody segment. we really want to start something where Kayla gets to go wild on the conspiracies, and there's just a big lower third chyron that says Luke Beasley does not endorse the views shared on this segment, but where she gets to go wild, because y'all would love some of the stuff she says behind the scenes. You would love it. Sia Flower says, oh, I already read that one. Office Zombie said, you know what also gives you a nice boost? Pep Energy gives you energy you need without the crash. Grumpy Cat XX says Susan Collins is saying bring back Graham Plattner. I know. Republicans got in this weird contradiction where they said Democrats are all shameful for supporting him, even though Democrats have now rejected him. And the very same Republicans saying that still support Trump, who has way more allegations and an actual litigated outcome to a sexual abuse allegation. But whatever. The Republicans got stuck between a rock and a hard place where they both wanted to say, how dare you ever support him, and he should stay in the race. But the voters chose him. And it's a bizarre contradiction. It's like what happened with Biden. They went from, wow, Democrats won't admit that he couldn't serve another 4 years, he shouldn't even be the candidate. And then Democrats decided, through pressure, and Biden decided he should no longer be the candidate. And then they immediately flipped to, how dare they ignore the primary voters who chose Biden, right after they were saying there was no real primary. It was very confusing. But, you know, I get it. It's unfortunate when a primary happens and then that person can't actually be the candidate. That's not how it should work. It's why I wish more of this was uncovered earlier with Graham Plattner. But also sometimes things happen. Sometimes you do learn something with a new figure in politics that changes the minds of those who are willing to fundraise, of the voters, and then you have to do an emergency procedure and pick somebody else. It happens. Miriam said, if it's from phone calls, only boomers and some older Gen X may be the ones answering. I don't answer the phone for anyone I'm not expecting outside my contact list. I know. I don't know how they still keep these relatively accurate, because you're right, I never answer phone numbers I don't recognize. I don't answer phone numbers I do recognize. A lot of the times. I can't deal with this right now. Always thinking I'm going to remember to call them back, and then I don't. For the last couple of weeks, really the last month, a lot of the American political pundit class and just average viewers and voters out there have been asking the question, is Mitch McConnell alive? Is he okay? Why aren't they giving any detailed updates of his well-being? We hear these reports of him being taken out of his house in a stretcher after some sort of cardiac event, that CPR was administered, but then Scott Jennings is coming out and saying, I had a great 20-minute phone call, he's doing wonderful, but then you have other sources around him saying he's incapacitated, he's not conscious, and it was just a total confusion. Because it's not just is he technically alive, but is he able to do the job of senator? Why hasn't he resigned if he's dealing with such huge health problems? And so then the Mitch McConnell folks said, you know what, let's put all of this to rest. Let's send out a photo where he looks very healthy, very vibrant, and prove that it was taken recently. And so they sent out this photo, where as you can see, he looks like the epitome of health. And you don't have any doubts. Any doubts whatsoever. And I guess his wife is back in town, and she's there by his side, and they look happy. They look happy. He looks happy. A nice big smile with a lot of his teeth and everything and stuff. So he is holding, no, big smile, mouth open, teeth showing and stuff. So no. No, not like that. So, some bruising on the hand, it happens. But then you say, what is he holding there in his right hand? Because that's not how someone normally holds a newspaper. Well, when you zoom in, it's supposed to be the sports section of that day's, I think yesterday's Washington Post. So instead of holding it up like, look, I have today's Washington Post, this must have been taken right now, and I'm fine. And holding it out front clearly, he holds it kind of nonchalantly, as if he's not trying to get it caught in the photo, but obviously he is. Like, clearly, I can picture them behind the scenes going, okay, we could take a photo, but how will they know that was taken recently? And then someone suggests, what if he's holding a newspaper? It's like, well, that seems a little try-hard if he's like, look, I have the newspaper. So then he holds it subtly, but so not subtly. What were you going to say?
We talked about it earlier, and I was like, I'm not sure if it's AI, but I do think it's terrible Photoshop. Also, the way he's holding that newspaper to prove that it's that day is the same way that dudes will have, like, the Mercedes-Benz logo of their car slightly in the corner, like on their Hinge profile.
Yes.
It's like, I don't want you to know, I want you to see it, but, like, you need to see it.
Yeah, Jaden will zoom. That's a perfect analogy, because I've seen that so many times on dating apps where people try to, like, oh, accidentally I have a really expensive watch on, but I'm not like flashing it, but it's down there if you notice. Which, by the way, in case you're one of those people, I always, what's the one whenever you don't want them?
Left.
Back, it's been a long time. I'm in a serious relationship now, but left?
Yeah.
I do this. I used to do this. Boom. Boom. If there's any flashing of some guys just put it was in your face. It was like clearly a Lamborghini, but not theirs. Just that was in the parking lot of the grocery store they were shopping at, but then they wanted to make it look like theirs, and they're like strewn out on the Lamborghini. That's their first photo. Out. Or they take up their first photo in the series of photos is them with like their most attractive friend. Have you seen this?
Yes.
And then you go, oh my gosh, and you swipe like, that wasn't you. You clickbaited me with your friend. And so that's Mitch McConnell's dating profile here. And there's the newspaper that's very real. Mm-hmm. And he's looking good. Hey, Mitch, you know another way you could have made us resolve this issue? Hello, everybody. This is Mitch McConnell. It is Sunday, July 12th. I'm doing all right. Why didn't he just do that? Why did you have to work all this time on the newspaper, subtle but still in the shot? Elaine's hand kind of back there.
Ripping with force.
Pinching him really hard. Smile, Mitch. They're clearly, very intimate and close together. He's all the way on the other side of the hospital. He could not be further away from Elaine right here. That's something. Why don't you just record a video? Record a video. You are a sitting senator. If he was just a guy, I would not be making any of these references. Live your life. Wish you the best. You are a very powerful senator who's been MIA for a month. We need more than, got the newspaper in the shot if you doubt this. And I know they were waiting for people to post the photo, not see the newspaper, and say, how do we even know this was from that day? And they were going to go, there was accidentally a newspaper. So that's... and then people were running this through Grok and asking, is this AI? And Grok was like, yes, it is. But then you run through something else and it goes, no, it's not. So I believe that it's a real photo, to be honest. I do. I do. I'm convinced it's a real photo. Some people were posting fake photos that look just like this and saying that they were posted in 2023 and they were recirculating it. Excuse me. I think it's real. But it's still strange. I think that's fair to say that it's still very strange. And I'm pretty sure this one's real too.
Honey, show them you're okay.
No, so that one I think is maybe not real. It's hard to tell these days, it's really difficult to tell. But I just don't think he would wear that type of shoe is the only thing that does it for me. And I've never seen his wife that happy when they're with each other, ever. And not even once, not when they're with each other at all. But otherwise, it's a convincing video. Oh, no. And then he sent out a statement. Record the statement, Mitch. Record it. I wish you the best on your health, but this cover-up is bizarre. To my fellow Kentuckians, when you elected me to a seventh term, Jesus. Guys, Senate terms are 6 years.
Oh.
Yeah, and this is his 7th. And made me our Commonwealth's longest-serving senator. You did so trusting that I'd keep showing up to fight for you every day. And over the past several weeks, Elaine and I have appreciated both your well wishes and your honest questions about what was keeping me away from the Senate. But this is where it gets very strange in his explanation. He says, my doctors have confirmed that I didn't break any bones or suffer a concussion from a fall that he had. I didn't have a heart attack or a stroke. I don't have any tumors or hemorrhages, but I was briefly unconscious and was taken to the hospital while receiving excellent care over the past several weeks. I've also had to deal with a mild case of pneumonia. I can assure you that I've been a good patient. At my age, I tend to do what my doctors tell me to do. I've submitted to every test they can think of to help figure out what caused this incident, and I'm continuing to do everything they ask to speed my recovery. In fact, with signs of continued progress, I've been able to move from hospital care to rehabilitation center, where I'll keep regaining my strength. So he's saying he fell and he got a concussion and he has pneumonia, and that's why he's been unable to make any public statements for a month.
Someone in chat did the math. He was first elected when Ronald Reagan was president.
Sure, why not? Sure, why not?
Let that happen.
Fun.
Yeah,
It's
why
fun.
not? Hey, you know what? If you consistency and regularity, that's what's good. You know, if you should keep doing the same thing over and over, that's the best way to do it. 42 years. That's so long.
Yeah.
The 80s? I hate.
Yeah.
The 80s.
Yeah, because the good thing about that, I think, is that our problems have gotten solved, so it's been working. Like all the issues that we had when he got in office have been addressed. So it's like, why not just keep up with the same? And the other part I like about that is the world hasn't changed at all since the 1980s. And so I'm sure he has a great understanding of the challenges that we face. I like that too. That's a fun part of this. So there he is, looking good, looking good. There's a photo. I'm sure he's working very hard for the people of Kentucky.
Levi's.
Fun. There's the newspaper.
Okay. He's posed like he was reading it and he was like, "Oh, you guys want to do a quick picture? Okay, let me just put it to the side."
Just not subtle at all. Not even close. Oh my gosh, where did I last leave off? Alan Hinkle, member for 13 months, said ICE killed someone else in Maine today. People are protesting at Collins' office now. As I was getting ready for the show, I saw that was breaking. Just horrific. Honorable mention said, I've done a lot of surveys willingly. A lot turn out political for money and also on Atlas Earth, a dumb phone game. It's saying like they'll pay people for them. I guess that would get me to do it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. It's been a second since we talked about Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, but I saw some news break about him, and now I'm just upset. So here's the saga. There was a man named Michael Cohen, and he worked with Donald Trump on the dirtiest of deeds. This man named Michael Cohen was the one who went up to and threatened the porn star that Trump had an affair with while Trump's third wife was at home with their newborn. This was the person who facilitated the hush money payment that became a part of Trump's criminal trial for falsifying business records. Michael Cohen expressed that he engaged in ripping people off for Trump. Again, his title was fixer. Do you know why I don't have a fixer? Because fixer, I barely even knew it. No, because there's not things like that I need fixed. I'm not leaving a wake of destruction that needs to be addressed behind me, okay? But that was his job. Then he ended up going to prison for Trump. And then when he came out, he said, I am a changed man. I was never a Trump supporter anyways. I am a Democrat. And I think Trump's a danger. And I'm going to call him out. I'm going to testify in his criminal trial. I'm going to give the prosecutors what they need to take this guy down. Because I saw it. And I went, yeah, woo, people change. And then he got to deal with Midas Touch and was doing anti-Trump content, standing up for his principles that he insisted have been there forever, but he just was working for Trump for a long time. And now he's doing a flip-flop back to, maybe Trump wasn't such a bad guy anywho. And it's getting really weird. He just got a deal. This is a part of what I'm going to update you on. With a Trump-aligned radio station. One of Trump's buddies owns the radio station, and the buddy of Trump's says he ran by the White House the Michael Cohen idea of him getting this radio show, and the White House signed off on it. Guys, Michael Cohen was the biggest critic of Trump for good reason. It was good to hear someone who was in his inner circle talking about how bad this guy was. Michael Cohen would talk about the guilt he had doing the bad deeds for Trump. He said, mea culpa, I went to prison for this guy. And now he's saying, actually, he didn't say. He didn't tell us, but we just found out about a secret meeting he had with Trump recently-ish. Michael! Cohen said, we're reconciling. We are putting the past aside and moving forward. Michael, the past is here. What? We are here. Trump's here doing the bad stuff. What past are you putting behind you? He's still the criminal that you were speaking out against before. You were testifying against before. Cohen admits they're not totally sure what that looks like yet. He did not go into further detail on what they discussed at this meeting. So what are we talking about? A secret meeting? Michael Cohen helped convict Trump, but now he's making nice again. A previously unreported encounter last summer set the stage for a reapproachment between the president and his former fixer, who has so far avoided the diatribes and prosecutions that President Trump has directed at other critics. That is notable. Trump called Michael Cohen crooked. Michael Cohen would have been top of the list to get prosecuted by the Trump administration, but I have noticed conspicuously missing from this enemies list was Michael Cohen. Was it because of this? Yes. Last summer, so that would have been the summer of 2025, as many one-time adversaries of President Trump sought to bury the hatchet with him, he met with someone who seemed like an intractable enemy, his former personal lawyer and fixer, Michael D. Cohen. And then they had a brief but significant conversation at the Bedminster Club after they were enemies of each other. Does anyone believe anything? Was this just to get Trump off of his back? Was this to try to get a pardon from Trump? I don't know. It's oh so very strange. But then you have this about his new deal with a radio station that is Trump aligned. I've never been able to pronounce this guy's name. WABC owner John Katzimatidis, a major Trump supporter, said Cohen and the president have smoothed things over. I think I nailed it that time. I can never pronounce this name. Let's see what the Googs thinks this is pronounced as.
Katzimatidis.
Yeah, Katzimatidis. I checked. It said the same thing I did. Katzimatidis. I checked with the White House, says Katzimatidis, with the White House, and they had no objection. I understand everything is fine. Hey, Mike, why didn't you tell us about this meeting you had with Trump? Maybe he did. I didn't hear it. I didn't hear about this. You had a Let's Make Things Good summit with Trump. The only reason I would meet with Trump is to express to him what I express publicly. You are such a dangerous threat to the country, sir. And then I would gobble down the Big Mac with him. That I would do. I would do that. I do like a good Big Mac. But while I'm, you're a threat to democracy, I would keep eating it, though. But I would say those things. I would. I would love to do an interview, but it would be very troubling for Trump, the type of interview I would do. But then Michael Cohen just made nice with him? What about all those statements you previously made about him being a narcissistic sociopath? Michael. Now again, when I go check on his channel, he does criticize Trump still from a media analysis point of view. But this is all kinds of weird. And then you got billionaire John Katzimatidis out here checking with the White House to get their sign-off for you to do a show on his conservative radio network. I was told, Michael Cohen says, The president gave me a glowing recommendation for this gig because he believes I'm going to be the next Rush Limbaugh. You worked for Midas Touch like 4 months ago, dude. Rush Limbaugh and Midas Touch could not be more diametrically opposed. And you're swinging. Now, I don't know what he's going to say. I'm sure he'll still be critical because he has all of this online record of him talking about some of the Trump administration disasters. But shoo-wee, Michael. If I ever got an offer for a job and the owner of the platform I was going to do the show on ran it by the White House and the White House said, you're good to go, we think he's going to be great, I would know I have done something wrong. If this White House, how censorious they are to any media that's at all critical of them, gave me a green light, I would think I had done something terribly, terribly wrong, given the track record of this White House. Tara Palmieri responded to this news, saying this may explain why Michael Cohen was so defensive when I asked him about a Jane Doe he handled for Trump in the Epstein case. He had just gone to Bedminster to kiss the ring. Watch the interview here. I'll play you one of these clips. Yeah, Tara Palmieri asked him about working with Trump during a time when some of these Epstein allegations were coming out, and given that he was the fixer, were these any of the cases that he fixed?
16.
Oh, so it was in the same year as the
campaign.
It was the same year as the other suit from the Katie Johnson that then became.
It happened around October, November of 2016, and the lawyer was like, "My apologies, I'm withdrawing the case." I said,
so it wasn't the Lisa Bloom one, because you would have remembered that one.
No.
Yeah. I was thinking about that one because that case also was revoked around the same time in 2016, around the same time that, No,
it was not revoked in 2016.
Yeah, it was. The Katie Johnson was. It was taken. She took it back in, I believe it was November 2016. I can get you the exact date. Yeah, she took it back, and they claimed it was because of intimidation. And I was just wondering, did you handle that case? Because obviously Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal were being handled at the same time.
No.
Do you know who handled it?
Yeah, it was an outside law firm.
It's in this. It says Alan Garten left in a Politico quotes Alan Garten, who was his in-house attorney.
Then it wasn't 2016. Then it was 2017.
No, it's in 2016. The Katie Johnson case has been established in 2016.
That wasn't something that I handled.
You didn't handle that one.
No.
I was just like, it just seems that you've cast a lot of doubt on this case, by saying he didn't doodle, and then obviously he was.
He doesn't doodle. I'm sorry that
one of his doodles got sold to Sotheby's, though. One of his doodles sold to Sotheby's.
Well, he may have colored it in, but all of his executive assistants were all phenomenal artists, and there were one or two that were just even better than phenomenal, that they actually show their stuff in galleries. So did he turn around and say to somebody, here, just scratch me out something and I'll sign my name to it? And he did it for charity. I do not make...
Yeah, go ahead and sketch out for me the curves of a woman or of a girl, and I will say that we have wonderful secrets together, and I'll send it to Epstein. Go ahead and sketch that out for me. You're just a renowned artist, my assistant. Sketch that out for me. Is that what Cohen's reference? Is that what this is about? Maybe the time frame. This was back when the Wall Street Journal piece ran. Murdoch-owned Wall Street Journal ran a story, and Trump denied that he had sent that bizarre, raunchy letter to Jeffrey Epstein, and then it got verified 15 ways till Sunday. Was Michael Cohen saying that couldn't have been from him because he wasn't a doodler?
Any claims whatsoever, zero, that he didn't prior to my knowledge, or that he did, I have no idea. I only know from when I started to when I left that there was no relation. But I'm not denying any of these victims. Who the hell am I to deny any of these
I'm
victims?
Just more curious.
Their comments.
I'm actually just more curious if you handled them, because this.
Well, the answer is if Alan Garten turns around in Politico and says he handled it. Why
He
would
didn't
you
say
even...
he handled it. He just commented on Trump's behalf. But you would handle.
But why would Alan Garten ever comment? But why would Alan Garten ever comment on me? Right? I've never commented on
you.
Alan.
He commented on the case.
Ooh, Michael. What is it? The I who does protest too much? Something like that.
Thou dost protest too much?
What is it?
I think it's like thou dost protest too much.
Gosh, I'm so tired of this old language stuff.
We weren't just taking up space.
And whoever said that never even heard of Looks Magazine. Our language is so much more advanced now than thou these days. DOS. But yeah, too much protesting, bro. Yeah. That's what the quote is. I think Jesus said that. That was so weird. She's asking, okay, so you were working for him in a time frame when some of these suits were being brought and then dropped and then threats were being alleged, and you are on the record talking about how you were the guy who would go out and pressure people to drop claims against Trump. You're the one who, according to Stormy Daniels, walked up to her and she was putting her kid in the car seat, and you were like, "You're gonna drop this. You're not gonna claim this. We're gonna give you some money." So we're just asking, were you involved in that all? And then he goes, No. I handled this other Jane Doe, and it was a weak sauce case. So they dropped it. And then Tara's like, okay, well then on Katie Johnson, did you have any dealings similar time that suit was dropped? And he goes, why did they say I was the one? Nobody said you were. I'm asking. Okay, oh my gosh. Michael, you're such a goober. What are you doing?
Because it was dropped because they said that there was intimidation, and that's why it was dropped. But at the same exact time was the Stormy Daniels, and at the same time there was also the Karen McDougal case, and they were all dropped in the fall of 2016. So I was wondering,
had nothing to do with me. I didn't. Listen, let me be very clear. I testified to 7 congressional committees, two grand juries, and to 2 trials. Do you think, and not to mention some outside additional depositions that were taken by Alina Hopper, do you really think that of all of these members of Congress that asked me questions for a total of 63 hours, do you think they didn't bring up this sort of stuff with Jeffrey Epstein? And the answer is,
what did they ask? What did they ask?
It's in the records, but they all asked, and I turn around and I say the same thing. Not all of us have read
the records. I'm just curious, like what?
And I turn around and I say the same thing. I have no knowledge of anything with Jeffrey Epstein. Zero.
So somebody else handled the Jeffrey Epstein.
I didn't handle it. As much.
All right. You made the choice to work for the guy that you said you witnessed horrible things behind the scenes in relation to. You made the choice to work for the guy who would brazenly rip people off. You made the choice to go threaten Stormy Daniels to try to make sure she didn't go public with her story of the affair before the election. You made the choice to come out publicly and say this guy deserves to be held accountable, and I'm going to reveal all the dirt that I have. You made the choice to work for the guy that we knew back then Epstein was a sex offender. We knew back then that Trump had this long relationship with him. You made that choice. You can't be so gobsmacked that people want to ask about what did you witness during that time you worked for him when he was trying to get all these different allegations dropped against him. Because you worked on getting some of the allegations dropped against him. So maybe you didn't work on the ones that had anything to do with Epstein-associated allegations, but perfectly reasonable question. And I guess have fun with your new show. I saw him saying it's just so exciting, a new beginning, completely liberating, he said, this new show he's doing on the Katzman radio station, and give him an unfiltered pipeline to the people. I'm moving my 1.5 million followers from my podcast, YouTube, and Substack over to this new platform, and it's an absolute rush to have a space where I can give them the plain, unvarnished truth. So were you not doing that before when you had the biggest liberal platform in the world on Midas Touch? You were one of the most famous contributors to the biggest liberal platform on the planet. And there you were saying, I remember watching his show. You remember Political Beatdown? He would start it like this. You remember this? Right? Okay. And it was like, yeah. Used to work for Trump. Now he's beating him down. Ah, yeah. And you were like, oh, it's so beautiful. The way that we take back our country is through platforms like Midas, and the truth is golden, and we're fighting for the truth. And now he's like, now I can tell the truth. Why weren't you telling the truth then before? So you get out of the Trump world and you go, oh, now that I'm out of Trump's orbit, I can finally tell you all the truth. Then you go to Midas, you say, oh, now that I have a platform, I can tell you the truth. Then you leave and you go, well, now that I'm not with them, I can tell you the truth. And the prosecutors actually were a little bit too aggressive to me. Now you get on a MAGA billionaires platform and you go, now I can tell you the truth.
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
You have no idea the physical toll that 3 vasectomies has on Michael Cohen's. You have no idea the physical toll that 3 truth vasectomies has on Michael Cohen. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. All good there. Let's talk about this, shall we? 2 topics I'll touch on in this segment. The first is Jake Tapper just submitting to Trump in an interview. It was like, what is this? Is this one of those, we were just talking about at Cole's birthday party. No, we were talking about Booze in the News. We were talking about is it called puppy play? Not puppy play, where people like get dressed up as a dog and then they get dog walked by their like owner, and then that was like Jake Tapper for a second. He was like, put me in a doggy outfit and tell me I'm a bad boy to Trump. It was so weird. I was like, why did he do that? We'll get to that. Then we're going to look at why it was so absurd Jake Tapper accepted this. Because in the same saga of Lindsey Graham memorial interviews that Trump was doing, he was out making huge announcements on non-Lindsey Graham related things. As I reviewed earlier in the show, he was like taking shots at Lindsey Graham too. He was attacking Lindsey Graham on some things. And so the fact that Jake Tapper respected Trump's assertion that I will not answer questions on anything else because this is about Lindsey is totally contradictory from the rest of Trump's interviews where he brought up whatever he wanted. And Jake Tapper should not have accepted this. So they spend minutes and minutes eulogizing Lindsey Graham. Trump gets to say all of the stuff he wants to say. And then Jake Tapper tries to bring up a different, really big news item. And Trump's the commander-in-chief still. So he should be willing to answer this. And Trump goes, no. And Jake Tapper's like, okay.
Iran has declared the Strait of Hormuz closed. Is that true, Mr. President?
It's open as far as we're concerned. Don't talk about it. Talk about the reason that you asked me to speak.
Okay. We appreciate your time.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Jake, and I say this with love. Jake, if you're seeing this, I say this with love. What? Because, again, I'm going to show you one other Jake Tapper clip in a second. But look at what Trump was saying in one of his other Lindsey Graham honorary interviews.
We hit him very hard last night. Every time they send a drone, we hit him very hard. But we had a deal. What nobody knows, we had a deal. It was a done deal. And then they broke it. They always break it. We've had 10 deals with these people. And so we're just going to hit them very hard. And we're going to keep the strait, and we'll probably run it. We'll become the guardian of the strait. Maybe we'll call it the guardian angel of the strait. And we should be reimbursed for that. When we do that, we're going to be reimbursed because...
So this is, as Brian Tyler Cohen put it, we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it, Middle East version. He's saying we're going to take over the Strait of Hormuz and they're going to pay us for it. Jesus. We're going to run it. They're going to pay for it. By the way, remember again, before this war was started by Trump, Strait of Hormuz was free and open. Smooth sailing, literally. It's only now that he's thinking we're definitely back at war with Iran. Peace deal's gone. But now we might have to forcibly take it over. And if you're wondering, won't that cost a lot of money to have such a huge military presence there indefinitely to control that critical waterway? And he says, yeah, but we're going to get them to pay us for it. We're going to get reimbursed. I don't know who they are, but someone is. He also said, just to give you a sense of how Jake should not have moved on, because clearly there's not a principle that you're not allowed to talk about anything else. Look at what he said about Obama in an interview that started out as a reflection on Lindsey Graham.
If you look, for 47 years, they've been tapping people along, presidents. Every president got tapped along, didn't do anything, and they became more and more powerful. This should have been done 47 years ago. Shouldn't have been allowed to start. But Clinton let him go, and Bush let him go. Everybody let him go, and Obama was the worst of all because Obama actually went to their side. Obama, because, he's a... Well, let's not say... let's not say, let's leave that for another time. He was terrible. And he allowed them.
What do you think he was going to say? He said that Obama went to Iran's side because Obama was a... Never mind. Let's not say that today. What do you think that was about? You think he was going to keep perpetuating the very racist theories that he had perpetuated that got him into Republican politics? Probably. Probably so. So now with that context in mind, why on earth would Jake let him do this?
Iran has declared the Strait of Hormuz closed. Is that true, Mr. President?
It's open as far as we're concerned. Don't talk about it. Talk about the reason that you asked me to speak.
Okay. We appreciate...
And then that moves on to this awkward moment.
Well, I know you don't want to talk about any other issues out of respect for Lindsey Graham, but we would love to have you back sometime.
How is that out of respect for Lindsey Graham? Trump's still the president. There's still a war going on. And also, Trump's talking about hitting Iran really hard. I think Lindsey Graham would be fine with that. Let's just say it that way. I think Lindsey Graham would be fine with that being the way that he gets honored.
Talk about any other issues out of respect for Lindsey Graham, but we would love to have you back sometime because I do have a lot of other questions for you, sir.
Sure. We'll do that. We'll do that.
Thank you for calling
We're
in.
trying to have CNN go in a normal path, and we'll do that.
Well, I'm on a normal path right here, sir, and I appreciate your time, and thank you for calling in.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Do you know what Trump was referencing? It's so grim. It's so grim. Trump's talking about getting his buddy to Ellison. I always forget which the first names are, but one of the son or the father or both are trying to take over CNN, just like they did to CBS. So when Trump says we're going to put you on a more normal path, he's talking about conspiring with his billionaire friend to take over a network to make it do coverage that he wants. That's what he's talking about. And then Jake is like, I'm on a normal path here. And I don't want to be too mean. I'm just kind of upset right now, Jake. I'm sorry. But that was weird. Okay, I know he's not supposed to talk, but... Go suck on your pacifier, Jake. You should have gone, no, I'm going to ask you. There's nothing disrespectful to anybody about asking you a question as the President of the United States. And then accepting that. We're going to try to put you on a normal path. That was a very hey, Jake, how's your wife doing? You know what I mean? How's CNN doing? Okay.
Got to get his balls back.
Get him back, Jake. Some people say he's auditioning to be the Tony Dokapil of CNN once the Ellison takeover happens. I hope not. Because Jake has done some good journalism. So I would hate to see that. I saw Anderson Cooper was like, I'm not allowing them to do to me what they did to CBS. Yes, Anderson. Yes. Good. Get it. Love it. But Jake, I'm watching you. And the way Trump said that was so trippy. Don't talk about it. Okay. And then you have this.
On the termination.
Okay. Can't ask Trump about that war that he keeps starting and ending and starting and ending and starting. But Trump is allowed to use the In Memory of Lindsey Graham segment to talk about how Lindsey's dying wish was getting the Save America Act passed.
The filibuster, which is the single smartest thing we could do, because then you'd get everything. That's bigger. But even if we took the small loaf, and the small loaf is the Save America Act, and it's very simple. It's voter ID. It's proof of citizenship, and it's no voter back. It's the ballot. Look what happened to the kid in California. They send a military.
He's rambling about getting a bill passed he wants to pass in what's supposed to be a very distinct segment about his friend. Or this, when he went on Meet the Press.
Anybody like him? He was so intent. I mean, he literally called me about the Save America Act. That's why he's... that's where I heard it. Think of it. He's traveling for many, many hours. That's a long flight.
Okay, I can't keep hearing that because the audio's so bad, but you can tell that he's bringing up the Save America Act there. The only person that had a more bizarre reaction than Trump was Nancy Mace, who posted this clip and quoted, "Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in." Yeah. Because she lost her primary to be the South Carolina candidate for governor, and lost it badly. And so this is from the, what's it called, that TV show? You know, people are going to be so mad at me for not knowing, but that famous show. And she's quoting it to say, oh, wow, because she's in South Carolina, maybe I could run to succeed Lindsey Graham. Just when they thought I was out, they pulled me back in, meaning a dude died, so now I maybe can get in power. And watch her, I know it's so painful. Watch her getting asked about this on CNN.
No, it is very fresh, and it is, a stunning moment to so many. But, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, I mean, he can appoint someone. We'll have to appoint someone. And as we just heard from Jeff Zeleny, will it be kind of a caretaker for this position through January, or will it be someone who will be able to run? Who are you hoping the governor might select, or do you have anyone in mind?
I told the governor this morning that I suggested that he should nominate himself. He can't do that. To be a sort of caretaker in between now and January 3rd, and then there would be a special election, which would really, it's only a 3 or 4 week special election essentially for that nomination for November. So I suggested to the governor today. I also talked to, that he should do it himself, but I also talked to the speaker today. We can't afford to lose any seats in the House. I'm not pursuing it. I'm told that Joe Wilson's not pursuing it, that interim appointment, because we need every vote that we can have for the president in the House as it stands today.
Okay.
The House. I got it.
You're not pursuing it, and I wonder too. I mean, it's a little awkward to ask you about this, but early this morning, after learning of Senator Graham's death, just a few hours later, you posted, and correct me if I'm wrong if this is not your post, but you posted on social media a clip of Michael Corleone from Godfather 3, where he famously says, "Just when I thought."
Famous movie, not show. Okay, shut up. No, I've never watched any of those movies. I'm sorry.
I was out, they pull me back in. What did you mean by that?
Well, I love a little self-deprecating humor. I think that right now our focus needs to be on grieving Lindsey Graham. This has been a shock to the system in South Carolina. There will be time to decide, do I want to look at this race or not? None of us will have a lot of time, and I know that there are already names being thrown out there right now, and the president's, I'm sure, getting a lot of phone calls. But South Carolina.
So her reaction to posting "just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in" was, oh, no. See, I'm not really concerned. I think we should just focus on grieving Lindsey. You posted that. And then she says, I'm a self-deprecating humor girly. So
what?
That's not self-deprecating at all.
What?
What are you even saying? What are the words coming out of your mouth?
Luke, you're trash. No, I'm self-deprecating. That's about me because I think you're trash, which is all like, what did she be? That what?
So weird. And then
oh my god, sorry.
To do the emotional manipulation of going, I think we should just focus on grieving Lindsey. Your first thought was, now I can get back in.
She even could have said, I like dark humor. That would have been better.
Fine. Didn't.
I know.
Self-deprecating.
So bad.
Unbelievable. Is that it? This is the last one I'm seeing. Okay, perfect. Well, that is where we're gonna leave it. What a news cycle, huh? Crazy stuff. Make sure you join us at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Click the join button on YouTube, become a member, and get the live members only bonus show at 6 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. Much love. Talk to you then.